Welcome to Seltzer Squad, the podcast about staying sober in the city, with your hosts, Kate Sander and Jess Valentine.
Hey everyone, Natalie here, editor and producer of Seltzer Squad. Today's episode is sponsored by Audible. Are you like me and you can't be left alone with your own thoughts for more than 5 seconds at a time? I know I can't. If so, you should check out Audible. Audible is the home of millions of audiobooks and exclusive podcasts. You will never run out of content to listen to. If you're a fan of the show, you want to check out other sober content, books, and podcasts, or just want to read a book but want to keep your hands free while you clean, while you drive, while you're trying to fall asleep at night. If so, you would love Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/Seltzer Squad and you get your first month free. That's audibletrial.com/Seltzer Squad to get your first month free. Hey Squad, want another way to support the show? Go to seltzersquadshop.com and get all of our merch. Stickers, hats, tees, backpacks, posters, tank tops, crop tops. They have all of our best sayings on it. So fucking sober, slick as bitch around, be nice to yourself, and of course, hangovers suck. If you want another way to support us and rep Seltzer Squad wherever you go to seltzersquadshop.com.
Hey, Jack.
Hey, Kate.
Squad, I just want to remind you that Jessica is honeymooning. She has not quit the podcast. Let's not start any rumors. I just have on Squad pod friend Jac Walsh, who had an episode before this, if you're just listening in now, so you can learn all about who Jac is. But one of our most requested episodes is to do one on relationships, and both Jess and I have been like, well, we don't really have a whole lot to add here about relationships. I mean, we can talk about our relationships, but you've kind of gone through the full spectrum of all relationship things in your almost 3 years of sobriety, right?
Yeah, it was 2 years, May 28th.
Okay, yeah. So 2.5 years of sobriety. So I feel like you are much more of an expert in this area than we are. So
oh my,
I don't even know where to begin. Where should we begin? There's so much to cover here.
I know, there is so much to cover. Well, what do you think would be most helpful?
Okay, well, let's rewind to you got sober. It's May 2020. What was your partner's reaction?
So at the time, my husband
Mm-hmm.
was, I feel like we at that point had kind of been going, I don't say like down different paths, but like, I don't know. It was such a weird time with COVID that like, it was just a weird time. So when I said that I was going to choose me
Mm-hmm.
and not drink anymore, I think at first, I don't know, like there was really like no reaction like either way to
Mm-hmm.
it. And then the more that I was like, no, like I'm not doing this. Yeah. And I mean, real quick, I like laid some boundaries where I talked about in the last episode. I was saying how I was like, if you're going to drink at night, I can't I can't sleep because
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sleeping because, you're not sleeping well. And so then I'm not sleeping and I like to sleep now, like a solid sleep. So that happened like pretty quickly into my sobriety. And so I'd say like a month in, I remember me saying to him the one time, like, you don't even like ask questions or you're not even interested in this like at all. And he said to me, well, it just seems like it's like, you're fine. Like, it's like easy for you. I was like, well, I felt like you're not around to like ask me. Like we had just different views about the pandemic kind of as well, like where he was going out and he did work like outside of the home. So like he was just used to that where I was like not leaving.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, layered on the sobriety, layered on like all the things that it just like, there was still alcohol in the house, and I didn't ask for it to be taken out. Again, I wasn't smoking cigarettes or anything like that. And he was still doing that as well. And I just like, I didn't use my back patio for so long because it just reminded me of like, oh, that's just for smoking. And I'm like, oh wait, I can actually like go, like this summer is like the first summer I'm actually like enjoying it because I'm like, wow, I can actually like have a back patio.
But I think your
So he
relationship,
wasn't like not supportive.
but you guys drank a lot together, right? Like that was
Yeah.
a lot of how you spent time together as a couple. So I'm sure
Mhm.
like even during the pandemic, that was probably a shift for him, whether or not he wanted to admit that, right?
Yeah, for sure. And we also moved around a few times because of like jobs and works and different things like that. So we would go to a city and we wouldn't know anybody but each other, obviously, So I feel like that was something that, a lot of couples like drink together. And so when you just have each other, it's like even more used, I think, and it just kind of was something that like we just always like did together, And so when that shift happened, it did, and there goes my cat Clover, cause that. And I remember like saying to him the one time, like, do you want to listen to like This Naked Mind? Like I'll download it for you on your phone. And it was just like not interested.
Well,
and I remember my therapist,
like walk us a little bit through his drinking.
which like, well,
because it wasn't like he was a normie, right? It wasn't like you were like, I'm going to quit. And he's like, I'm going to have an occasional beer.
No, I mean, and that's why I had to lay the boundary of if you're going to drink every night,
Mm-hmm.
like when you drink at night, like I can't, and I guess I was thinking it would be like, okay, I won't drink like every single night to this point, but like that happened, you know what I mean? So it was just kind of like, I started realizing how much like he was drinking, and then I started finding it like in my cars and different places. And then like I would see, I was checking the bank account the one day and there was like a gun charge on there and we didn't have a gun, but I thought we didn't. And then I called him and he lied. And then there actually like was a gun, so there was things where it was like,
weird stuff
like,
was happening.
You knew about all of this stuff. Yeah.
Weird stuff was happening.
And it was just kind of like, oh my God, like what? And then, like I said, in the last episode, when I went on that sober solo vacation that summer by myself, I was just like questioning, is this like what it's supposed to be like? It just didn't seem like, if we didn't have the drinking, it didn't seem like there was much else. And it wasn't like we did not have a bad marriage at all. Like It wasn't like we fought, and he is like a good guy, and I think that was something that was really hard about deciding to get divorced, was like, there was no like drastic thing that one person did to the other person. It was just like a knowing of, and when I decided like I have to choose me, I did not think that meant that I would be getting divorced. Like I never really thought that, but when I had those feelings come up, I really had to like examine it. And the more that I like thought of, like worked it out, like talked to my therapist about it, like asked him to go to therapy, there was no willingness until I had said like, I'm filing. And then it was, I will go to therapy. I'll do this, I'll do that. But by that point I was like, it's too
Your
late.
mind was made up. Yeah.
And that was hard too, because it was like, okay, now you hear all the things that you like wanted to hear, but it's like, no, I feel like when you're in a relationship with someone, it's like, hear me when I am saying this, and maybe like to give him like the benefit of the doubt, or I feel like at that point, like I knew that I could trust me, but maybe he didn't think that I was that solid, you know what I mean? But when I said in the summertime, like, you need to get, like, we need therapy, we need to go to counseling, you need to go, like, here's some numbers. But my therapist was just like, you can only take it so far. Like, and so in November, it was actually like my first sober Thanksgiving. He said he was going to Florida, 2020, going to Florida for Thanksgiving. Hello, no thanks. So I said no. And I was home by myself for 10 days. And it was like over Thanksgiving, my first sober Thanksgiving. Like, and I remember like we like FaceTimed, like the group of us. And I just remember thinking like, it was like one of the best Thanksgivings. Like I didn't, because every Thanksgiving, a lot of Thanksgiving before that, we were together for 13 years, like married for 10. And so it was like every Thanksgiving before that, like drinking was so much at the cusp of it, especially because we were living not in our like hometowns or different things like that. So, and they were fun, but like many we like didn't eat, you know, like we didn't even have like food because we had it like in the fridge. We just like never did it, you know? So I was thinking like, wow, and I didn't even realize like now looking back and thinking like I was sober for my first Thanksgiving, like by myself, like how big that really was.
Well, and without your partner when you've been in a marriage for a lot of
10
years,
years.
right? Like you're not
10
even,
years in
you weren't even
September.
really like alone, like ever, right? So then you're like alone
Not
because
like-
of the pandemic and then alone, like sleeping alone. And it's a
we had our
holiday.
10 years in September and then November was Thanksgiving when
Yeah.
like, and so when he got back from that, that's when I had said, like, we had that conversation and it was like I will obviously never forget that conversation, but it was something that I said it and I was like, whoa, like I said that and like, I meant it and I'm sober and I'm like, not like, this is it. And like, it got to a point where like, and you know, because like you were there with me, like on this journey, like, there were some days where I would like just fall to the ground and start like crying.
Yeah, there were some days you weren't sure.
Hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, it's just too hard. Like there were so many things and like just the paperwork and like logistics of things. And then it was like, I mean, we like the cats, like who's going to get what cat? Like that was like devastating to me. Like all like thinking about that kind of things. And yeah, like, am I really making the right decision? Like it was so hard, but then it was like
I think your story is really
like,
powerful because there was not really a specific thing wrong. There were like 20 little things that were not preferable, right? And I think that that's really relatable in a lot of relationships, especially when you get sober, because it opens this like growth, this like door of growth and self-discovery, and you start growing at like a rapid rate, right? Because you're like figuring yourself out, and then you're, you know, like you can really outgrow your partner because they're not doing any of that stuff. You're on this like hyper aware of all the feelings. I'm doing all the things. I'm feeling like you're really raw, and they're like living their regular life, and there might not have to be something really, really wrong in order for it to not work anymore. Right.
And that's something that's like, I feel like, in March of 2020, when I started working from home because of COVID, and I started really looking at my drinking in just a different way, like is like noticing it more because I was home all the time. So it was creeping in more. That's when Brene Brown had on Glennon Doyle, and I had actually never heard of Glennon Doyle before that. And Brene Brown read the intro of her book Untamed, and it was like that cheetah story. And at the end, it's like the cheetah just thinks like, well, I guess I should be happy. Like I got a steak and I have like a friend that I can run with, and like I should just be happy with this life. Like it's pretty good, I guess. And then like that wildness in her, and I was bawling. I listened to it like, and this is again like I didn't get sober for like 2 more months. But I remember listening to that, and that like something like clicked, and I like got Untamed like instantly, like listened to the book, like got the hard copy, like all the things. And there's it's called Dragons. There's a part of that book where she says that she's talking about a friend of hers, and says like she started drinking like her friend, and that became the problem instead of dealing with like the other actual problems.
Oh yes.
And so I'm like, did I like almost like do that in ways like where, you know, I wasn't really looking at the actual problem, you know? And so just thinking like, you know what, like, I think a lot of us, especially as women, we're like conditioned to be happy with what you have, you know, like, don't rock the boat, don't question things. Like, it's going to be hard, you know, like I'm 41. Like, so this was like, I was 39 being, you know, deciding this. And it was just kind of like, no, you know what? Good enough is like not good enough anymore for me. Like I can't live like that. You know, I can't live like good enough anymore.
It's like, I'd fucking want more. Like, I don't, and she was like, well, you know, most people. And I'm like, yo, bitch, like I'm not most people. I'm like done being most people.
That's your like, isn't that your like mantra for the year? We deserve better.
Yes, we deserve better.
So yeah, that's how I mean, I was just like, that was a really hard, I mean, that's a hard decision like to make. So anyone that's going through that, like, for me, it was just like staying with therapy, like journaling. Like I said, like, I actually like didn't ask anybody what they thought. I did not ask my parents. I did not ask any family members. I did not ask any friends. I just, I talked to my one friend and who's gone through divorce. Like, she's a little bit older than me. And she was just like, you'll just know. And I'm telling you, it was like one weekend, it was in November. I like woke up, it was a Sunday morning, and I was like, I know. It was the weirdest thing.
I remember.
But
because when you didn't ask me either, you told me, like, I
didn't ask
made
anybody.
this decision.
Yeah. And that goes back to like me being able to trust myself. And I knew that like early on that I could do that. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, but also one of the most like, oh, okay. Like it all, came like full circle of like all the like the things with that relationship. And so it was something that is, it's just like part of my story, and I feel like being able to like look back on that and be like, I got sober and divorced during the pandemic. That's like, no one can ever take that away from me, and like, I go back to like, when I say like, there is no Oz, like I had to do all that like myself, and it was really hard, but like having that community, like finding like you and Jess, and then like our like little community we had, and then like I found TLC, like the Luckiest Club in November. That's when I would go to 3 meetings a day because I had like no other people, and that was like, I would share about everything that was happening, and it got me to that place where like, and the thing was, oh yeah, we actually lived together too for another 3 weeks after our divorce was final. So
yeah, you broke it to him, and no one moved. It was also during the pandemic, so it was like you were kind of stuck with each other. Yeah,
I told him in early December, and he didn't move out till March.
You didn't get like a Mary-Kate Olsen emergency divorce. You had to go through regular.
No.
Yeah.
Well, and because like we're not from this town, so it's not like we had family. Like back home, like we could have easily had a lot of people, but yeah, and it was because of COVID, so it was like, that just wasn't an option. And I understood that as well, so it was just, by that point we had already kind of been like so separate, but it still was like really hard, but again, like just going back to, I remember the one time you said to me, there's no amount, like, because I was like, anything, like take it all, have it all. Like you want anything, like you want 2 diamond earrings back here. Like, I don't want to fight, like take it. And I remember you saying like, no amount of money or anything will be as valuable as like your peace. And that was like completely true. Like that is what kept me like, I wasn't like in that drinking tunnel anymore. So like, you can't rattle me like in the past.
And I feel like for the most part, it wasn't petty. Like there were a couple petty things at the end, but like for the most part, it wasn't petty. Like he was pretty normal about things. Like I think his reactions were pretty normal, right? Like for the person that's not working on themselves at all and has little self-awareness, when your partner says like, oh, I want a divorce, that probably is really startling because they had asked you to go to therapy and you weren't really hearing them. So I don't really fault him for his like reaction to it. And I feel like for the most part, you guys you kept it pretty cordial.
We did. I mean, that was something that I'm grateful for, that it was like, let's make a pact, like not to be dicks to each other and get through it. And yeah, for the most part.
Now he lives happened. Where? How many blocks away?
Oh, like 200 feet.
Yeah.
Down the street.
No, he's your neighbor.
Yeah. But, I saw him at the pool, like for the first time. Like I didn't see him for a while, but I did see him at the pool a couple weeks ago, and it was like, hey, so it's something that, it's still kind of like weird. And, and I will say there is something where if I leave like my community, like I could go out a different route that's a little out of the way, but like I pass his place. And so there is something to be said. Like there's some days where like I'm not having a good day, like I'm mentally like stressed or like sad or something. And like having to pass like your ex's house every day that like they chose to pick that place and live there. Like, and again, like staying sober through all of it, it's like, there's something to be like, sometimes I don't even realize some days, like the effect, like some days it will hit me like, this really sucks that I have to do this. And so I wonder what it will be like when I like move and like I'm not that connection is like completely gone. Like I think that will feel like even lighter, you know?
Yeah. All right. So then you're divorced. So now you're divorced, right? So what's your life like now?
So I'm divorced. That was in February. And
of
then
what? 2021, right?
2021. Yeah. And so I had been talking. I had this girl who was a friend. We'll call her Kay.
Wait, hold on. Before that, did you go on any dates? No, right?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so. You weren't really like thinking about it at all.
No, like I wasn't. No,
Okay.
I was like, what? Like I like had just got like a recovery like Instagram. Like I didn't have any social media. I'd never ever dated online because it just wasn't like a thing. Like back, you know, like
in the olden days,
that
yeah,
wasn't
same,
even,
yeah.
Yeah, it was just like, and I'm like 40 almost. You know, I'm just like, what? Like that was not even.
You're like, Tinder, what?
Oh my gosh, my eyelash girl was like, oh, you get on there, you'll be swiping everywhere. I'm like, I don't even know like what that means. But I did like meet somebody in December. Like he lived in like Tennessee. We like met as like friends. And I know you know this because you say it was a date and I say it was not. But and he's actually like one of the best guys ever. But like it just wasn't like
you went on
like,
an accidental date.
Well, it was just like meant to be friends. You know, like when we met, like we like both like realized that. But I remember like on the way home just thinking like, oh, I'm gonna be like alone for the rest of my like just like really encapsulating though like how hard it was gonna be. Like, how do you meet people now?
Well,
like,
yeah, when
I
you
don't
work
even
at
know how
home
to date.
and yeah.
And I was like, and this is going to be like really hard, but it didn't like deter me from like going through with anything. But it was kind of like a, wow, you know, like what's going to happen kind of thing.
And I remember that day when you were like, also, where am I going to meet anybody? Because where are these people that aren't in bars and restaurants and during a pandemic?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I work at home.
Yes.
So like, and I'm not from my hometown,
right?
Like my hometown. So like no one can like set me up with anybody. Yeah, it was just like, but you know, one thing at a time kind of. And that just like wasn't on the radar. So that there really wasn't any dating until. So I had like, there was, when I told you like the Luckiest Club, like the sobriety support community that I'm like part of. And the one time in like January, Kay, this woman,
we're gonna call her
whatever,
Kay to protect her identity.
We're gonna call her Kay. She shared about she was getting a divorce and a cat of hers had just like passed. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting a divorce and I love cats. So I like shared in the chat, and then I actually was the next person to share. Like I had my hand up, and so like I shared about my thing, and so we just started like texting each other. And she was like getting a divorce from a man. And we were just like texting, and it just like organically kind of like transitioned into more as we, I don't know, just found out like we had
when
like,
though, because I don't think that we've ever talked about this. Like when did it transition? Because I remember when you guys were friends. I remember when Kay came on the scene and you telling me about her, but like
you've been there through
then
it
you
all.
Sort of went dark, and then all of a sudden.
I did go dark, yes.
We had that rogue FaceTime.
Well, it was literally like, you know, some of that like immature stuff that we had talked about like happened like at the end of my divorce. And I called her and I was just like, and this was like the papers had been signed, and I was like, this is like happening. And she was like, I'm going to come there. And I'm like, what? And she like she wasn't from here. So she was going to like fly here. And so it was maybe just like the week before that I was kind of like, oh, like that shift had kind of like happened. I don't even know like what it was. It was just like I can't say like, oh, there was like a one text that like happened. You know, I do think like, and I don't want to get too much into like her story because she's sober as well. But it was kind of like she just decided to like, when she was like going through something, I had said, like, if you're like gonna drink and you decide to do that, like, please just don't like reach out to me, because I just don't want to be like, I just have to be in the company of people that I know are like present minded. So I just like put up that boundary. And like she had said, like she had never felt that like connection with someone that she like cared, you know, to like about that. And I was like, why am I like setting a boundary with this person I don't even know, really? You know, like that was kind of like, so I think it like grew from like that kind of like, there was such a respect for each other that was like different for both of us. It was like in a different way. And then when I called her and she was like, I'm coming there, I was just like, okay.
Was she coming there like with romantic interest as well? Like, did you guys talk about this?
Yeah.
Okay. So it just hit different between the two of you is what you're saying.
No, I mean, at that point, like I knew, like I was like, okay, like something, like I was open to like whatever.
No, I mean like the connection
Like,
between you just like hit different than like a friend connection, because like you and I met online and we're not like together yet.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So
like,
yeah, I mean, I think it hit
Lee
like,
decided to fly and come and see me and we're not like together.
exactly. Yeah. Like, I think it was like, yeah, it was different, but eventually like we got on the same page.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I had like never been sober and like been with a woman, you know, I like was drunk and like had some times, you know, but like nothing sober for sure, you know? So, she flew in and I like picked her up at the airport, and that's when I went dark on Kate for a minute.
Okay. So side note, we decided to get Jac a cake.
Yes, that was
that's how we figured it out. We got her a cake when her divorce finalized, and then we were like all worried that she wasn't going to get this fucking ice cream cake and it was going to melt. So
they were like texting me like, Jac, where are you?
She had gone dark, and we were like, well, who's going to get this cake that we sent her? And then we found out she was with Kay, and they were more than friends. I FaceTimed them, and like I FaceTimed you first, and then you like pulled everybody in, and like she will never forget it because you said, show your face. Yeah. Because she's just kind of like in the back, and yeah, like it just like, so she was going to just say like a night, and it ended up being like 2. And then I remember like dropping her off at the airport, and it was like weird because I was kind of like I'm sad. Like, I don't know. It just felt like it was different. And I had never had anything. I mean, like in recovery, it was so different than like anything that I had ever experienced in so many ways for so many reasons, you know? And then, I kind of feel like there's a difference between secrets and like privacy. And so I felt like I was going to keep this private. And that's why like, I didn't even tell like you guys, because I was like, I don't even know what this is, where this is going. And that's something that in choosing me and like in sobriety, I've been able to have this like have things be private for me, you know, in terms of like anything, you know, like that job I was saying. Me too. I've gotten better about that too. I used to like word vomit everything in real time. And now I'm like able to be like, I can back burner that for now. I'm not sure yet.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it feels good to have like, okay, so when I say something, it just, it's like different. So I was like, you know, I'm not going to tell, I'm just going to keep this, like, it's my, and like her thing, you know? And then I kind of was like, when it feels like it's being a secret instead of private, then I'll know, like, I need to say something about it. And so I just kind of, you know, we didn't, that was like late February. So for my birthday, I was like, I wanted to go somewhere. It was my 40th birthday, you know? And I was like, she said like, why don't you come up here? And I think I was going to go to like California. And, cause I, you know, used to live out there and different things. And I was like, okay, like, sure. California.
Do you think,
like
do you think that some of the newness of this was related to, like, you know, how AA says, like, don't get into a relationship in your first year. Do you think that it was wise or unwise to, like, dive in? Because you guys, like, dove, like, hard.
Well, I think it's because, like, I mean, for me, I feel like it was we didn't live in the same town. So we did it was a while, like, and a while, I say, like, not like a while. We on sobriety, like a year feels like 10. So it was like we saw each other every month, but it was like once a month.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we would we'd have to meet in cities. Like we did a lot, but we had to meet, like we didn't live like that. It had to be a plane ride away. So for me, like I go back on like choosing me, and that's felt right. So I'm not going to have like any organization tell me, and that's just like for me and like my recovery and how I was too. Like I wasn't physically dependent on alcohol. So for me, like I didn't like need that to get through. And I feel like because had done the work, like in therapy, I knew I wasn't using it for like something else. I'd already gone through my divorce, you know, like that was done. And so, and it's like, we're still together, even through like some hard stuff. And it's because I feel like we are able to like have those open conversations, like being sober and like I, you know, me, I want to talk about like all the things. And so
a lot of talking, I imagine.
Yes. But there was just this connection where I went there for my 40th birthday and we went to the beach and up in New England on my 40th. And I remember like running in the water because I'm like, I want to be like almost like baptized, like in this ocean, like, and March, it was freezing cold, you know, but I was like, I'm doing it. And it just felt like everything, I knew it wasn't just like so many things were just like happening. Like, you know, like the friendships that like I had made, you know, like for like us being like an example, like supporting me through my divorce, you know, like you were a huge supporter of that. I had never met you yet, like in real life.
Yeah, we only met last year.
This concept wasn't really that foreign at this point.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
You know, and the fact that we were both sober.
And in TLC.
And, yes. And going through like just a lot of different things. It felt like it was aligning for like a purpose. Like, how did I meet this person on this? Like, we both shared the same day about like a cat and like divorce, like from men. Like, it was so, it felt so random, you know, like it had to have happened for like a reason. And so I feel like, you know, like as like my birthday came around, I was honest with my family and said, like, I'm going up here, like, I'm going to be with this person. But then I got to the point like in April where I was like, I'm going to have to like, I need to say this out loud that I'm like dating her, and I need to be like honest about it because I am not ashamed of anything and I'm choosing me. And again, when I said that way back at this point, you know, May 2020, choosing me, I had no idea that was going to be like getting and staying sober, getting divorced, like putting up boundaries, like, and then like allowing myself to like date a woman and then like coming out and like telling people about it, you know, like in my family. And the one day, like, I mean, you know, this day, like I just decided like I needed to do that. And I called them like one after the other and just like spoke my truth, you know, and that was one of the hardest like days of my life. Like,
do you think that was harder than telling them that you were sober?
Oh no, that was like that doesn't even compare. No, that was like an easy, that was to them was like, they were just so supportive of that. And like, I even said like when I got sober, like, you guys can ask me questions if you want to, like, but they were just like really, that was like never, no, this was definitely like like more than telling them about my divorce even. That was like, because you don't know, like.
You don't know where people really stand.
Right. And you find out real quick, you know, and it's like being able to trust myself though. It was like, I'm not gonna live in secret, you know? So I didn't want to say like, I'm going to CK and not say like, and not know that it was like, in like, as my girlfriend, because to me, that was something that like in choosing me and like my sobriety, like I have to be honest. And also I'm not going to live in a shameful place, you know? And it was like thinking of like that, well, I guess I should just be happy with the life I have. It's like good enough. Like this was like, I didn't even know that like that type of feelings and like relationship was like intimacy. A real thing. And it goes back to like, and not to get like in too much detail about all the things, but like, trauma in my past and just different things that like, it just kind of like all like made sense, and like my whole life, like I've always been, just always like when I went to the protests and different things, like when I got sober, like that's like at my core, like who I am. And so I feel like being able to just be open to the fact now of like, my family, like embracing like the word queer and like me being queer and like being able to say that like I am going to love based on the person, not a genital, or that it's just like, I'm going to be like, allow myself to be with a person.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that like before I felt like I never even questioned that, as I was like dating and like getting married,
mm-hmm.
Because I just, even though like looking back, like I was always more attracted to women, always. I just not like being with a woman was just something that it just wasn't thought of,
Yeah. Well, yeah, because we're conditioned to be straight. Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Like it's not, we're not really given the option.
Except when I got drunk a couple of times and was like, okay, like this is what I want to do. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like owning that now, and, my family has come like such a long way. Their support has meant like a lot to me, and it's grown, but there were hard times where it's like, I had to set boundaries and be like, I can't go in between, like you're either with me, or it's okay if you're not, but like, I just need to put a little space in between, and I remember like some of the times with you, like telling you like, this is like really hard because I want to like fall back on old ways where it's like, well, it's okay. Like I can have this life here. And then I also can have this separate life over here. And it's like, I can't do that. It was just like the way that alcohol, in the morning, like I'm not going to drink today. And then by noon, I'm like, okay, I could just have like one glass of wine.
Mm-hmm.
And then by 3, well, I'll have like 2 glasses and then I'll go to bed by 7. And then I get home and it's like, every day was like, my mind was just like talking like, and so I just didn't want to live in a place where I'm like, okay, with this group of people, I can only talk about these things. And with this group of people, I can't talk about this. And so I just was out there, and it's been amazing. And like,
I would say it hasn't been amazing every day though for you. I think it's been an evolution, right?
Yeah, and when I say it's been amazing, I'm talking about like the fact that I can say like I'm queer. That is amazing to me, like every single day. So yes, I definitely feel like the relationship, like there's, ups and downs and like all of them. But yeah, I definitely feel like, yeah, I would say evolution as well, because it was kind of like, I remember like using the word queer, like for the first time on the phone, like with my mom. And then I'm like, oh, that just like came out of me, and then going to Pride this year, like deciding to wear a shirt that said queer on it. And I was like, at first I was questioning, like, do I want to wear this shirt? Like I was never afraid to like wear a shirt before. And then I was just thinking like, wow. Then I started thinking about like, wow, I'm so privileged to like, this is what I'm like worried about, like wearing a shirt or not. And this like, yeah, it just went in, of course, like way deeper for me. Like, but I was like, I have to wear this shirt because, and it wasn't like, I obviously knew at Pride, I felt safe wearing it, but I'm like, what about the walk from the parking lot to the festival? What if I'm out afterwards? Like, what are people gonna, and I was just like, no, I'm like wearing this for that reason. And then I like had my girlfriend like take a picture of me like on like by the river, like in the shirt, like at Pride, that I like put on my Instagram. And that was like really important for me too, to put on there, because as I get more comfortable with not so much myself, but I think just, this is the example of what I'm like trying to say, is there was a person that shared their story on the recovery community this morning. And they were saying like about like Christianity and like God and like different things, like being a part of their journey. And that's their journey, And I was writing things like as they were talking, and I was realizing that I was actually judging this person because I had thought that they were judging me because they said that they were like a Christian. And I'm like, and I wouldn't have realized this unless I wrote it, but as I was writing it, I'm like, I'm doing the thing that like I think they're doing, and they probably aren't even actually doing that.
Yeah, they're probably not even thinking about you, but yeah.
Yeah, but you know, they definitely weren't thinking about me, but just in terms of like, I am now able to give like space to be like, not everybody that identifies as being like a Christian is gonna like be instantly like, you're terrible, you know? And so I feel like I'm realizing like I can't judge other people for them judging me or even thinking that they're going to judge me. So it's just kind of like helped me in choosing me. It just kind of falls in like all those things. And again, like with like, there is no us, like no one's going to like find you that perfect person. And like, they don't exist anyways. It's like finding out like what is good enough for you. If you're like, well, I guess I should just be happy, then that's kind of like what's going to happen. You know what I mean? And so I feel like with the relationships, I never would have thought that like where I'm at now would have even been a possibility like 2 years ago.
And bigger than the relationships, right, is this theme of choosing yourself and not limiting yourself. And I think that's the takeaway. And we get so many questions of people writing in of like, my partner still drinks, I don't drink anymore, we're not getting along. Like it's the same story where they're like trying to choose themselves. And at what point are you willing to make the sacrifices to choose yourself? And I think why your story is really powerful is because you were willing to put it all on the line. You were willing to like get a divorce, come out to your parents, like all of the things in which you need to choose yourself and like firmly have that solid bedrock of identity. And your identity was evolving also, but you gave yourself the space and the grace to like let that happen. And I think that's what every time we read those questions, Jess and I are like, oh, you just need to give it time because you're going to figure out like what you want. Like maybe not right away. Like you didn't come to these conclusions overnight, you know, you had to sit with it. But I think the powerful message is that you kept choosing yourself and coming back to yourself and not, you know, staying in a marriage that you were unhappy, not coming out to your parents because that would make them uncomfortable. Like you were consistently willing to risk all of those things for the sake of preserving your identity and being comfortable with that, even if that made other people uncomfortable, which is hard to do as those who identify as women. You know, like we're constantly filling different sizes of containers no matter what room we're in, right? So I think that's the big takeaway.
It was really, I mean, and it's been incredible having people in my life like you, like that have been there before, during, like now, like, and that have loved and supported me. Like when you met me, I was married to a man and now I'm dating a woman, you know, like, and you've supported me through all of that, you know, and I feel like it's having that, I feel like that recovery, like foundation of our friendship connects us to that different level. Yeah. Where it's like, you know, that you can trust what I'm saying in a way that maybe other people like in your life, like you don't, or
it's coming
you know
from
what I mean?
I know it's an authentic statement. Like, it's not like you got hammered and like made out with a girl. And then the next day you're like, I think I'm in love with Kay. And I was like, maybe, I mean, do we know? Like, you know, it's like, it's a solid place. Right. And I think that's the other thing too, is like, I've observed you from like a very low place. Like you came to your first meeting with me in a very, like you cried on the meeting. You were in a low place. Yeah. And then I've gotten to watch you like get happier and choose yourself consistently. And like friends, there have been some low times, right? Where you're like, I cried all day. I had to log out of work early and I went to bed. I watched Real Housewives. I had a Coke Zero and I went to bed. Yeah. But it's like you showed up, you stayed the course for yourself, right?
Yeah, that's the only way. Like for me, like that's what it goes back to, like always. Because if I felt like I can't do this or I can't do that, that doesn't feel like, I don't want to live like with, I can't, you know, I want to live with like, I choose me and what falls underneath that. So maybe there's can'ts under that, but like, that's not the headline. the headline is like, I choose me. And then everything falls like under that. And that's been just like the guiding principle through all of my,
and the
last,
takeaway is like,
over
you're
2
still
years.
standing, right? Like you're still standing, you're
Yeah.
still, you're happier, you know what I mean? I would say that you're arguably happier and more authentic, and
Yeah.
it's like true resilience, right? Because we think like, oh, we can't stop drinking. Like that feels impossible. And then you do, and then you
Right.
feel a little stronger. And then you're like, oh, I'm not happy in my marriage. I want to get a divorce, but I can't do that. And then you do. And you just consistently show up for yourself and prove yourself wrong. Like you're unstoppable. That's why I do say like, we can do anything.
Like we can
like, do anything.
You just
and choices
never
are scary.
know.
Like it's being able to do anything is also scary because you have to have the guts to reach and then work, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's like, especially, I mean, we're told like, oh, you have to be like this. And once you hit 40, it's like, well, you better have kids. And that's a whole other thing where it's like, you know, I don't have kids. I had an ectopic pregnancy like a couple years ago. And that doesn't mean that I'm this or that, or, you know what I mean? Like, there's just so much that we're like told. And so just to be able to like come out and live like whatever life like you want to live. And even like the way with alcohol, like the culture, it's like, you know, having to explain why we don't, and like just a chemical that's a poison. We have to like defend that. It's crazy. Like there would not be commercials during the Super Bowl about like people doing heroin.
Right.
But there's literally commercials about people like climbing mountains and then like drinking beer. And it's like wild, you know, I was like definitely like sucked into that until it like totally took over, you know?
Now we talk about all the time how crazy it is that people drink. Wild.
It's so crazy to me. I'm just like, what? Like when I pump gas and I see like 10% ethanol, I'm like, that is what's in alcohol. Like it's, especially when people are like, oh, it doesn't really affect me. Like I just have a couple. Like, then why are you drinking it at all? Like I couldn't, like I was like, bottle, like I'm not going to have this one. So I was never like that where it was like, oh, I'm just going to have a couple. Like, no. So if you could just have a couple, like, why are you even doing it then? That's what I wonder. Like, can you really just have a couple? Probably not. You know,
well,
I
do think that there are people that can have just a couple, but I don't think that we're those people.
Just like, no, I'm definitely not that person at all. But I just wonder, like, what is actually the point though? If you are just having a couple, it literally is poison.
Yes.
So like, what is like the purpose of that? If it's like, it's not like it's a like yoga session where you can get like, it's literally poison. So I just don't get it.
I know. I don't get it anymore either. It's wild to me.
We don't live there anymore, so we don't have to worry about that.
Hey everyone, if you're a fan of the show and want to support us and get more content for yourself, go to patreon.com/Seltzer Squad to find even more content. There are 2 tiers. If you're Princess FOMO, for $2.99 a month, you can get early access to episodes on Wednesdays instead of Fridays. And for $4.99 a month, if you're a former hot mess, you can get that plus video episodes of every episode that comes out. In addition, we even put bonus surprise content. For both tiers, go to patreon.com/Seltzer Squad. Help support us and get extra surprise content for yourself. Hey Squad, Natalie here, editor and producer of Seltzer Squad. Today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp.com. I don't know about you, but it feels like everyone today is going to therapy, and I've heard nothing but good things about it. How they're like, you really should go to therapy. It's great. And you're like, I don't know. It's expensive. I don't know when I'm going to go. I don't know when I'm going to fit it into my schedule. Don't put it off any longer. Go to BetterHelp.com. It is more convenient and cheaper than conventional therapy. You will be paired with a licensed professional therapist. Just take their short quiz. They'll pick someone for you. But if you don't like your therapist, you can switch at any time. You can video chat, call, or just message. Go to betterhelp.com/Seltzer Squad or use code Seltzer Squad at checkout to get 10% off your first month.
So where do you think it's going to go from here? Tell us, like, where do you think the relationships are going to, like, that's why I'm always like, I don't know what the fuck Jac is going to come up with next.
I mean, you never know, right? I don't know. Like, I feel like, you know, with like, for Kenny and I, like, there were some like trying times. I mean, she like moved not here with me, but like to this area. And there were some like growing pains and just, you know, just like some different challenges. But being able to like have a weekend where we just like sat and we're like, all right, this is going to be really hard, but we're going to get all of it out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was exhausting, like crying, like tears, but then also like knowing again, like there's something that brought us like to this point, like right now, like it should have never happened. Like we should never even like be in the same state, let alone, you know, all the things. So I feel like if we weren't sober, then we would never even gotten there, number one. But also it's like we can rely on each other and trust each other. And you know what it's like. I mean, in sober relationships, like friendships, whatever they are, it's when you say something, it's not like you forget it the next day, or it's like, and every interaction, like the intimacy is just on like a whole different level, that it's like so true and like deep that like, I've never like experienced like a love like that before, you know? And so the hard times sometimes are like harder because, you know, like better almost, you know, like petty stuff, or you get, you know, I get like jealous over stupid things, or there's just, you know, different stuff. But it's like at the end of the day, like being able to have those hard conversations and then get through it. And again, we're like both in therapy, like we're both doing the things, like it's not by accident that we can like work through things. It's because like we're doing the work. So, you know, I think it's just having that as the foundation. It's just kind of like, there's no like limits to like what's going to happen. So TBD.
What would you say to like one of our question people where they're in a relationship and they don't really know what to do? I'm sure you see that all the time in TLC, right?
I don't know. Actually,
no?
Like
we get a lot of questions that are about like,
well, there's
I'm with
like,
my partner.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like, I mean, I would just say go like, again, if you can, like go back to like your like gut feeling, like start journaling and seeing like, okay, like this person is not being supportive, you know, like it was so funny. I go back and I have actual like records of like, this isn't about relationships, but like when my car like got like, I ran out of gas, like when I have like weird stuff like that I keep notes on. So it's like, I don't want to say like no every time you guys have an argument or something, but it's like seeing the trends almost and just thinking in your gut, like if you feel like it's the same cycle is happening, like it's so hard to get out of like that toxic cycle that it feels like normal after a while, you know? And it's like, if you're not feeling good and happy, and I don't mean like happy, like that positive, like happiness, like toxic positive, you know, like all the time it's happy. And it's not even that, it's like a peace, you know, where there's not like drama, or there's not like, when that is the norm, then that's
I remember with my ex feeling trapped, like nothing, again, it was kind of the same scenario where like nothing was really wrong, but like it wasn't great. And I just kind of felt like, well, if nothing's really wrong, then I shouldn't be complaining and I shouldn't be feeling this way. And it's not right, but it's not all right. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly. And because you know that there's something inside of you that you're actually like not being true to yourself.
Like I was like, I just don't want this life, I think is what I had netted out. And I, you know, when I finally broke up with him, I had just said like, we just want different things. Like, I don't want to live here in this town. I don't want this to be like my life. And it doesn't mean that it's you, but it is you. Like, I don't want it's not either, you know, on some level. Yeah. And you don't want to be the you don't want to feel like the bad guy. I think also women, we don't want to feel like the bad guy. We don't want to be a bitch, but also.
Luckily with me, like I don't know, like I'm okay with that. And I say that because like there was like a guy I dated in college. We dated for 5 years. We moved to LA together, lived together out there for like a year. And then he started talking about getting engaged, and I broke up with him like the week after. I was just, because I'm like, it has to be better than this. I'm like, we can't just like, I can't pack your lunch every day or you won't eat. Like, I can't be a mother. Like, you know, I was just like, it was cool in college to be like that, but I'm like, I can't, like, you need some motivation here, dude. You know,
yeah,
like,
I think in my relationship, it was like we were lacking like an emotional intimacy, and it was like he wasn't like able to be vulnerable. Therefore, like I couldn't really be vulnerable. So we were both like these two guarded people, like living mild, mediocre lives and like having a laugh here and there. And it wasn't terrible, but again, like it wasn't great, and there was really nothing to look forward to. And I feel like those are sort of those are hard to leave also, because you feel like, well, nothing's really wrong, but also like this ain't it for me. It's like, sorry, bud.
Right. It's hard. I mean, definitely. Cause then it's like scary, because then even if like you're in a bad or like toxic kind of like thing where it's like drama, like nothing like physical, like, you know, you feel like it's bad, but like not super bad. It's like, it's draining on you, and you're like afraid. It's almost like, I mean, there's been times where it's like, I've been in relationships where it's like, I'd rather, I guess, be with somebody and be miserable than be alone.
Yes.
Because you don't realize, like, when you're alone, there's actually, because, and I'm just like realizing this as I'm saying it, like when I was alone, I was never sober. Like before I was sober, I couldn't think of like being alone, because when I was alone with myself, like bad things happened.
Yeah, I just
like
drank.
Dark days.
Yeah, I just drank and watched Oprah on TiVo alone and got really sad and cried.
Right. It was like I would go down like rabbit hole. I mean, it was just not a good time.
And smoked in my apartment.
Sober, Lord, yeah. But it's like being able to be alone, and when you have that sobriety, it's just a whole different feeling of alone. It's just like I'm by myself.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Not like, it's amazing. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I mean, the biggest thing I would say, like, especially like someone that's like going through recovery and like deciding, like, you know, when I said like I was journaling and didn't say, you know, was filing in December, but in the summertime when I look back at my like journals, and I can see that I was actually questioning things then, like start like questioning things and just kind of like keep like choosing you. And it sounds like that's like an easy concept, and it's like not. Like I understand, like it is really hard, like as we said, you know, but it's like what I've learned, at least in my situations, like people don't really like change that drastically where they're gonna one day just be like, you're not gonna probably get someone to like quit drinking, be on the same path as you at the same exact time. You know, it's like you have to have that. And what I think is so admirable, and like what I admire about like you and TJ, is like the way that you guys give each other like that space, but you also like still grow together, and you're able to like ask the questions to each other, like work things out in like a positive way, you know, without
I feel like I'm able to communicate my needs clearer now that I'm sober and like with more conviction, and he's receptive to it. And it's not that he wasn't receptive to it before, it's just that like we were never on that level, right? Like where we even were aware of these needs, or he wasn't aware of his. And I think now that like I can bring that awareness for both of us, then he has an opportunity to like, but again, like change doesn't happen overnight for either of us. I'm sure that there's things that like, I'm sure there's definitely stuff I want him to work on, and I'm sure there's stuff that he wants me to work on. But I think what's different for me in this scenario, even since like past relationships where I wasn't really drinking, was like we never had that open avenue of communication to where we could both be comfortable. Like you and I have talked about this, like there's no fights really when you're sober. Like there's like little arguments, but you don't really fight anymore, because there's no like heated emotions because no one's drinking. Yeah. And so we definitely still argue, we definitely still bicker, we definitely still like get mad at one another, but we're able to come to the table and talk it out, because I don't get like hammered and blackout drunk and then like scream and throw a knife at him. Like, you know, so it's just it hits different. Like we definitely, it's not perfect every single day, but it's just different, and it's deeper. And even in my relationship with my ex, like I didn't really drink really until like the last couple of years. We were together for 5 years, and my drinking started to get kind of out of control, like towards the second half of our relationship, where I was like, I am trapped. I'm never getting out of this.
Oh my God, that's the worst.
I was really
even.
like sad and, you know, kind of desperate. And the drinking was like a total escape that, you know, I was never even vulnerable enough until the end to just be like, I just don't want this life. Like, I'm sorry. I could have saved us both like a lot of heartbreak.
Mm-hmm. Can you imagine if you would have stayed and not right?
No,
it's like, that's how I feel about if I was still
No.
married. I'm like, I wasn't that, like, I don't even know. I don't know. It's very interesting to like look back and be like, I love the fact that like the one thing, it's like, I've never questioned that decision. And I feel like that's, never question the decision. Like, but it's like, when I got sober, it's like these big life decisions I've made, I don't regret any of them. And it's like, whatever happens with like Kay and I, like, I hope all the best, but I'm still going to be queer regardless. And that's what I like was letting my, like, when I was talking to this about with my family, it's like, this is like who I am now, like, and who I've been really. It's just, I didn't know that I was like allowed to even like be like this, you know, like be just open. And it just wasn't, like I said, like on my radar. Cause I was never like, oh, this is the kind of wedding I want to have, or because I didn't really ever see myself. I wanted to like go to California and like get a job, you know? And so once I did that, it was kind of like, okay, I'll get married. You know, it wasn't like
which again is a trauma response, right? Like, because you're just trying to cover the basics. So I think there was probably part of you that was you never allowed yourself to like explore or think about it because you were busy, like, oh,
for sure,
you were busy surviving, right? And
keeping everything.
I gotta go over here. I gotta go to get through college. I gotta get the job. I gotta, you know, whatever. And then you get into a relationship and you don't really stop and think about it because you're just moving on to the next thing.
Right. And so that's what I feel like going back to like, I choose me and like being in a relationship with myself. Like, I remember like, there's songs even now, like they'll be like love songs, but like, I will like sing them like about myself to myself.
What's the one that you listen to in the morning?
Oh, Good Morning Gorgeous by Mary J. Blige every single morning. That's the first song I play.
Yes.
Yeah. I like, that is like my number one, like that is the song that I play like every morning. And it's, I don't know, it just like sets the tone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's when I was like, wow, I'm like starting to, there's like a song, I have to think about what the actual name of it is. It's like a alternative song because it's on my running mix. But I remember the one day, like I was like singing it like to myself. Like, I don't know. I just started realizing like all these songs about like love and everything. Like when you love yourself, like I was hurting myself. Like I was like turning my back on myself. And then I was like able to love myself. Like the, you're going to laugh at this, but the Adam Lambert song, like, what do you want from me? Or like, you know, I was like, whoa, that could be like about like sobriety, like in recovery, and like, what the hell do you want from me? Like, I've done everything. Like, are
you starting a new genre, sober rock?
Oh my God, let's do it. Yes. Yes, sober rock. I love it.
That's funny.
Hashtag sober rock.
I'm trying to think. I don't have any questions at the ready, but we get so many I should have looked them up before we started. I don't know. Do you have any questions for me? I'm trying to think of some more questions from our squatties, or just things that come up a lot.
Okay. When you know that like you're the one who like has to say I'm sorry because you feel like you have to own that because you might have been the one like messed up, like how do you go about doing that? Because it is such a like vulnerable state. And then also it's like admitting something like I was wrong, you know, and saying that, like I'm more like aware in like recovery that when I need to say it, and it feels like worse sometimes because I feel like, oh, you know, so how do you like go about owning that and like saying I'm sorry? Or you never?
Well, I mean, I think like for me, a lot of that feeling and that vibe came during the George Floyd protests because I felt like, whoa, I'm wrong about everything. And I'm sorry. You know what I mean? But I think how that plays out in my life on the day to day is that I now never assume that my experience is the only experience. And that goes in my relationships and my friendships and my day to day. And I am I try to be much more human, or I try to have humility to be corrected. And I think a lot of the stuff that I'm learning in school is like, we're learning about cultural competence. And a lot of that is intersectionality, which means you can have many different things happening within you at one time. So there can be many parts of you that are dominant and many parts of you that are oppressed. And so I think that in any situation that I'm in, I'm trying to be more aware of, am I the dominant person or the oppressed person in the dynamic? And if I am being corrected about something, like I genuinely know that it's usually not about me, it's about that person's feelings or that person's experience. And my saying sorry and my becoming aware of it then makes me a better person. So I kind of look at those things now as an opportunity.
I love that.
Instead. So
it's like not judging the person that like how I was like, I'm not going to judge someone because I think they're judging me.
Yeah. Like I try, I mean, of course, like my initial reaction is like, I'm offended, right? Like I'm like, me, like who, me? But also
I make mistakes.
I try to put myself in their shoes and see what they're seeing in me. That's like hitting, you know what I mean? Offending them or whatever.
Different. Yep.
And then you just say sorry because I don't know, when you know better, you do better. And that's all we can do. Like there's no point in like, if I genuinely feel like incongruent with what they said, then I'll explain my point of view and, you know, I can stand to be corrected. But 9 times out of 10, I'm just like, oh, fuck. I had no idea that I was like hurting your feelings. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I'll be aware of this next time. Because there's nothing to be, you know what I mean? What am I going to be mad about?
But do you find it like the hardest to do with TJ?
Yeah, and I think like family members.
I feel like there's sometimes with relationships, like those that we're closest to, it's harder.
Definitely, like friends, anybody that I'm close to, and if they point something out about me that they're right on, and it's not positive, that hurts. You know, like you know, like if I'm trying to think of an example that I can say online. I have a complex that I know I'm an interrupter. Sometimes I do it intentionally because I'm like, okay, I'm inserting myself. But over the last couple of years, like I've become more aware of the fact that like I interrupt, and I know that becomes, you know, like that can be an issue, and that can like deter people from wanting to talk to me if I'm constantly cutting people off. And that's like a hard truth to like realize about yourself, right? Or to be corrected. And so like if somebody says, don't interrupt me, then you're like, well, fuck you, you know?
But, and then you feel probably like,
you get like a little snap of shame where you're like, oh, fuck, I'm an interrupter, you know? But then again, it's like, okay, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And then you think about it next time. And I think that's all you can do, right? Is think about it the next time and make a different decision. But I don't really take. Yeah, well, I take like very little personally now. Like I honestly, I still care very deeply about what people think of me, but most of my day is I don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something like when you were saying how you feel that like little pang of like shame, but then like you take that action to recognize it in yourself and use it as a tool to like become a better version of yourself. Where I feel like that's not easy to do, and not like doing all the things that you've been doing and having your toolbox and all that. Like, I know for me, I didn't want to, it was hard to like hear that kind of stuff and then take action from it, you know? And that's, I feel like the work that you've just like continue to do. And I love how like your school stuff like is intertwining with like,
well, yeah, I mean, I think we have to be hyper aware of like who's sitting across from us. And like, then also, I mean, you know this from therapy, like you go in and you're like, oh, I'm annoyed with my husband. And then they're like, well, let's put ourselves in your husband's shoes. And then we have to like talk through what we think is going on with them. And like, so you have to like in my personal and professional life is just constantly putting myself in other people's shoes. So now I just try to be more aware about it. But I think there's also a difference between somebody saying something that goes against like your core self, where you're like,
for sure.
Excuse me, wait a minute, that is not who I am. And so I think that there's a difference where you can say, oh, actually, I'm not that person, I'm this person, and be okay with that. And even like what I'm working on now is if you receive a negative reaction to who you are, like in your case, the story that you just told about your family, you're okay with that. If you're like, hey, family, I'm queer, and they're not cool with it, then you're like, well, I still am. And I'm not like receiving this from you because it's who I am. So I think that there's a difference between like, Jac, you're interrupting me, and like, oh, you're queer and that's wrong, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So you have to be able to like decide, you know?
Yeah. Decipher too. Cause before it's like easy to be like, all the things are right. Like anything someone says negative about me is true.
Right. Exactly. Like you have to decide if you believe it.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And also like what authority that person has to say that to you. Like if they're saying that you're interrupting as they're like interrupting you in a way, like it's interesting, like the levels of it. But I think that, like I always say too, like I don't like to ask questions that I don't want to know the answer to, because I feel like if I don't want to know the answer, because it's just going to make me think, I don't know, all the things, or it's like, it's not really that important. It's like, I don't want to ask a question sometimes that I really try not to ask questions that I don't really want to know the answer to. But I feel like that also goes along with that, like being okay with like other people's reactions and not changing because of that, you know, and just, I don't know, not going down. I feel like in relationships, like it's easy to like go to the past or go to a part where like you might not even know that person, but you want to go to like, that's what I mean, like with the question sometimes where it's like, well, none of this matters.
Right.
So I like need to stop, because I know with me, like I'll keep going and keep asking things. And I'm like, this actually doesn't have any relevance to like my actual life right now, you know? And so I feel like that's something that's hard to do, but like recognizing it is really important.
Yeah. No one likes to hear shit about themselves, you know?
Over and over again, that they're like, I hate this part of my life. Please stop bringing it up a million times.
Right. How do you think you fight fair now?
I think, you know, having the tools of like therapy, like I can really see a difference with like in arguments with people, or just like, not even arguments, but just like talking to people that have done the work and haven't, you know? So I feel like it's just kind of like what you said, understanding like their perspective of things. And also, like I really, I have this like metaphor, like called like spreadsheet. And so I feel like,
wait,
there's
what?
people that
Stop, rewind. You have a what? Explain.
So, okay. So if I'm like arguing with not even arguing, if I'm like talking to someone and I'm like, okay, they're not like, they don't get what I'm saying because they're like, maybe like not doing any work on themselves, or they're not like, they just like aren't getting it and they won't get it. But there's been a lot of times where I'm like, going on, like I'm trying to like get them to get what I'm saying, and they're never going to get it. And it's not because they don't want to necessarily. It's because like, right. And so I do like the one day I was like thinking of a spreadsheet.
Okay.
And I was thinking like, if I asked my niece to like do the spreadsheet for me, she would be like so excited about it, wanting to help me, like would love to do it and would say yes. And then like, she would not know how to do it. And it's like, she would be asking me like, and she would look like she knew what she was doing, but like, she wouldn't. And like, I wouldn't get mad at her for that. Like, and so it's like, I literally think of like whoever I'm like talking to, like sitting there trying to do like a spreadsheet.
Okay. I get it.
And it's like, it's not like, I feel like a lot of times, like for so long, I was like, why aren't you getting this? Or I'm like, you don't want to get this because like, you don't want to understand like what I'm trying to say, but it's like, no, like they're really probably doing the best they can. They just can't, and I can be a spreadsheet for someone else. Like, I don't get it, you know? So I feel like when I think of it as like spreadsheet,
I literally thought
like,
you meant that you made a spreadsheet of metaphors to have on hand to explain shit to people. And I was like,
oh my God, I'm not that
that's
wild.
extra for you, man. Like, even for you.
No. I'm not that wild. No, it's just like, and now it's the
they're
thing,
speaking
like,
a different
I have, like,
language.
like I have a group of friends, I'll just be like spreadsheet. And it's like, it brings that to mind of like, it's not that person maybe doesn't want to help, but I think like for me, that helps me set boundaries. If I'm like, it's a spreadsheet situation, like they're not going to get it. And I cannot do anything else to get it because there's actually nothing else to get. I just have to put a boundary down, you know, and that makes it feel like easier. Because I know like they're trying and I'm trying, you know, so spreadsheet.
I think for me, I have to get better, and I have gotten better about naming my feelings in a moment, because I think a lot of times we'll just like collect a lot of data that happened and then like spill that onto someone like, well, you did this and then you did that and then you did this. And it's like, okay, so they did a bunch of things, but what that really means is like, you hurt my feelings. And we don't say that enough in fights. Like we say like, you didn't take out the trash, but like what I really mean is like, didn't take care of your shit, and that hurt my feeling because it makes me feel like you don't care about our life or whatever. And so now
or
I
it's
try.
like, you didn't see me like sitting here working. You're not validating.
Yes.
Like you're not like you're not doing this one thing, but really it's like you're not valuing like what I'm doing. You know?
Yeah. So I think now I try
hard
to bring in how I feel into a situation versus like the thing that you did was right or wrong, because it's usually usually neutral, right? Like it doesn't really matter, but like how I perceived the action is what was the matter for me, and then we can talk through that. And I try to do that in like my friendships, and I think the family stuff is hard because I feel still blocks around like how to communicate with family, because you just get reinserted into that like childhood role, right? So I think for me that's more difficult to stand up for myself, like whereas with my friends or with, you know, my partner Tej, that it's gotten a lot easier. And so we don't really fight that often, but I mean, obviously no relationship is perfect, but yeah.
But how you go about like dealing with when things go kind of awry definitely shows like the growth, I feel like. So I can look back like in my relationship now and see like how we got through things now versus like a month ago even is like has grown in a better way. And it's not going the opposite way. Whereas like if you're in a relationship and it keeps going the opposite way, then it's like it needs examined, you know?
And I think the other thing too in sobriety, I don't really fuck with people that don't want to have difficult conversations. Like if you can't handle a difficult conversation, like I can't fuck with you anymore. Like partner, friend, like, well, what are we dancing around? Like, I don't know. I'm a fucking adult. So like, I mean, I have friends that like are afraid to talk to their partners about X, Y, or Z. And I'm like, I have no fucking time to dance around like weird shit in my relationship.
Yeah, no, I don't have that many relationships. I feel like even like in sobriety to like, I think because like when I got sober, it's like all my relationships are with other sober people pretty much because I was isolated, and then it was like, I just can't.
I think that there's a right and a wrong time to talk about things, but I don't think like if you're putting off talking to somebody about something because like that's what I don't fuck with. It's like, yeah, maybe you don't tell them while they're on a Zoom call for work, you know, like bust in and like break all this down. But like if you can't after, you know, a couple days time, like sit somebody down and say, hey, this has really been bothering me. Like, let's have a conversation about it. Like,
cause it's going to fester and then it could go into like, oh, now I resent this person. And then it's like all this inner stuff that like the other person might not even be aware of any of it. And that's not fair to them either, kind of, you know, so.
But yeah, if you're in a relationship where you can't even have like a difficult conversation because you're afraid of like their reaction, then you're not in the right relationship. So that's that.
I need to plug my computer in soon.
Oh, okay. Well, we should wrap it up. It's been a long time. We've had extended length Jac episodes. I don't know, Squad.
Wow.
Do you have
I'm
any
honored.
questions for Jac? Should she come back? What else do we want to know from her? If you guys have any more relationship questions that you'd like me to ask Jac for you, you can send them to seltzersquadpod@gmail.com. Do you want to plug your things? Your Insta?
I just have an Instagram account, but
I forgot last time.
There is no us,
There you
of
go.
course.
It's Instagram, and it's
just,
at There Is No Oz, O-Z, like Wizard of Oz.
Yes,
There is no
like
Oz.
Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
Right. And I just feel like that I started it actually because when I was getting sober, so many people that were sober were saying like that is a great way to have like a recovery, like an outlet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't have Instagram or I didn't have any social media for years. And so I started that as a way of just like documenting my recovery journey in all the ways of like, just like choosing me altogether. And so that's like what I've used it for. And it's just been amazing outlet for myself. So I connect with a lot of people on there. And if you're interested in like, or need, you know, a community like the Luckiest Club, I would just recommend from my own personal everyday experience.
Yeah, you can find Jac at the 8 a.m. meeting. She'll be online
Yes,
at the crack of dawn.
I will be there.
I think that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this one.
Thank you so much. This has been like so much fun.
Until we meet again, Jac.
Be nice to yourself.
Don't forget, hangovers
suck.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. Every review helps other listeners find us. Music by Dead Go West. Art by Kate Sander. For show notes and resources, check out seltzersquad.com.